Today we take a look at some absolutely insane new magic weapons that were added to Valheim in the Ashlands update. Let's get to it. Before we get into all the details, I just want to let you know that all of this information is currently on the public beta, so you can freely go check it out yourself if that's something you want to do. As far as I know, public beta is only available on PC through Steam. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. Because this is all information from the public beta, everything you are about to see is subject to change. If anything has any massive changes, I will be sure to make an update on it. In most cases, it's probably just going to be small tweaks to numbers if any changes are made at all. The first new magic weapon we are taking a look at is called the Staff of Fracturing. This is probably going to be the first one you also get a hold of, as it is the simplest and easiest to craft, only taking charred bones, ash wood, and proselyte powder. I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. I have no idea. But I do know that once you get to the Ashlands, all of these items are relatively common and easy to get a hold of. You can see that it has 200 durability, it deals 10 blunt damage by default and 10 fire damage as well. It will cost you 35 iter in order to cast it. It has a block armor of 48, a block force of 20, and a parry bonus of 2 with a knockback of 20. It will also reduce your move speed by 5% while you have it equipped. When you fire it and hit a target, you can see that it does a massive amount of little bits of damage all at once, and that is because it fires a projectile that explodes on hit. If you hit a target directly with the projectile, it will get hit by all of the little tiny explosions that follow after. It also does a massive amount of fire damage if you do a direct hit. You can see that if you do not do a direct hit and the target just gets hit with one or more of the little projectiles that follow after the explosion, it takes significantly less fire damage over time. You want to think of this staff as essentially a cluster bomb launcher. The downside to the staff is that it is not much use in the Ashlands, as it deals fire damage, and most things in the Ashlands, while not immune to fire damage, do not take any additional damage, and in most cases they are somewhat resistant to it. You may be thinking that this staff is probably good in a large group of enemies, but honestly not so much. It tends to miss more than it hits. You are better off using this staff as a medium range weapon and directly hitting the target, doing the maximum amount of damage, ensuring that all of the projectiles hit the target. If that's the case, it appears that this thing does more damage than the Staff of Embers. However, the Staff of Embers is much better for long-range barrages as well as large groups of enemies. The next magic item we're taking a look at is called the Dunder. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Once again, no idea on any of these names. You can see it there on the screen. This one's going to take you a little bit more effort to get a hold of, as it is a bit more expensive, as the materials needed to craft it are a little bit harder to get. You are going to need 10 ashwood. That's easy to get. Flame metal is a bit more challenging. Celestial feathers is very much more challenging, as well as the bloodstone. It also weighs more than the previous staff, coming in at 1.5, has a durability of 50, which is terrible. It deals 20 lightning damage by default. It has 48 block armor, 20 block force, a parry bonus of ×2, a knockback of 210. Yes, it knocks back very hard, and a backstab of 3 times. It also reduces your move speed by 5%. And it's missing its tooltip for mana. There are a lot of things missing, a lot of information in their tooltips in this update, but I did the math for you, and it uses 34 mana every time you reload it. This thing is essentially a shotgun. So much so that you even reload it and it just holds the charge, and then you click to fire it, and then you have to reload it again. You can't just fire on demand like you can all of the other items. This is good and bad at the same time, and the reason it's good is you actually regen mana while you are holding a charge in it, so you can charge it and actually let your mana charge to full before you fire it, or just run around with it charged as long as you have it out and equipped. The downside to it is that if you sprint or do anything that stops a reload, in the middle of reloading it, you just spend the mana to reload it, but you don't get to fire it, which is really bad and sucks. So you need to make sure that when you are using this thing and you go into the reload animation, which just happens automatically after firing it, you don't do anything like sprint or anything else that's going to cancel the reload. Otherwise, you just waste mana. The other massive downside to this weapon is the very limited durability of only 50, compared to the previous staff that we looked at, which had a durability of 200. However, this thing has a massive knockback and does considerable damage at close range, as you can see on the screen. A knockback of 210 in this game is absolutely nutty and can knock small targets targets a significant distance from you, far enough so that depending on the target's speed, if it's not fast enough, you can reload and fire again by the time it gets in front of you before it has a chance to hit you, ensuring that you deal massive amounts of damage to it and then it deals no damage to you, and then you just rinse and repeat. As it runs back to you, you fire again and knock it back. However, at a bit of a distance, this thing's damage starts to fall off, and at a medium to long range distance, you won't even hit the target. You gotta be relatively close for this thing to actually do any amount of damage at all. Unlike the previous weapon, this weapon is actually very useful over in the Ashlands for killing the Morgan, as they are weak to lightning damage. Most other stuff will just take normal damage from this, so white numbers. So the lightning damage is very strong from this thing, and like I said, it can hit extremely hard, knocking most of the chard away from you with little to no effort. So while the first staff that we took a look at was the least effective over in the Ashlands, in my opinion, out of all the ones that we are going to take a look at today, this next staff is the least effective all around. It's really only good in closed areas, and overall it seems neat, but once you start to mess with it, you realize it's rather unimpressive. And it is called Staff of the Wild. It has a weight of 0.3, durability of 200. It deals 20 poison damage. It uses 55 mana every time you use it. It has a block armor of 48, a block force of 20, parry bonus of 2 times, knockback of 100, and it reduces your move speed by 5%. To craft it, you are going to need 15 ashwood, 10 fiddlehead ferns, 3 celestial feathers, and 1 jade. So as I stated earlier, at first glance, this thing seems really cool. When you fire it, it fires a projectile that creates a large vine that pops up out of the ground, and it attacks anything close by. It also creates a green misty area, and anything that is close to the projectile, not anything in the misty area, it has to be relatively close to the projectile. The mist is honestly a little bit misleading, but if it's close to the projectile, it will light on fire and take, I'm pretty sure, fire damage, but considering it says poison damage, I'm not sure if that's poison or fire, but the target does indeed get lit on fire. So I'm unsure if that is a bug or that is how it is supposed to work. My issue with this weapon is that the range of the vines is very short, just shy of a foundation and a half, which is not a very long distance in the grand scheme of things. The other thing that I noticed is that if the target is moving around a lot, the vines seem to just not attack. They attack stationary targets much more than they attack targets that are quickly moving around. When they do hit, their damage is not bad, and you can have a decent amount of these things out at one time. There is a hard cap limit on how many you can have, and that hard cap is 10. However, I think in normal circumstances, you are not going to actually be able to get 10 of these out at one time. I was only able to do it using admin commands, as your mana is going to be a limiting factor, as well as the fact that they are on a time limit. They do only last for a certain amount of time before they just disappear on their own. So in most circumstances, you should be able to easily get 3 or 4 of them out if you are fully spec'd into being a mage before you run out of mana and or they start to despawn before you cast more of them. This thing may have some specific niche use cases, but overall for just general combat, it's not that great, and you're better off using pretty much anything else. Last but not least, we have the troll staff. This thing is insane, and I mean literally insane. Let's take a look at what you need to craft it. So you are going to need some charred bone, easy to get a hold of, a troll trophy, which you're going to have plenty of, a little bit of flame metal, and a bloodstone. So once again, this one's going to take a little bit more effort to get. However, in the long run, I think that is worth it, and I'll explain why in a bit. It only weighs 0.3. It has a durability of 200. It uses 120 mana every time you cast it, as well as sapping 60% of your health. Yes, this is a new blood magic weapon. It has 48 block armor, 20 block force, a parry bonus of ×2, and it reduces your move speed by 5%. So what does it do? Well, it summons a giant fiery skeleton troll, which comes in strong with a superhero landing and deals massive damage to everything around it, crashing down like a meteor when you summon it. It does have a bit of a delay when you summon it, but then the troll just goes on a murderous rampage. But the crazy thing about it, and what makes it insane, is that this troll is not friendly to you, unlike the skeletons that you can summon with the Dead Razor. These things will easily attack you if there is nothing else around for them to attack. I have noticed that they will prioritize other things first, but once they kill everything else, then they prioritize you. You can also just get caught up in the fray and get hit by any of their attacks. You are not immune to their attacks, and they do hit hard. Anything caught up in the area when they land also gets hit very hard and takes massive amounts of fire damage for a short period of time, after which the troll will begin to attack things that are around it with your usual troll attacks, and you can get these things to land with or without a tree in their hand as a weapon. They sap a good chunk of your life, but that is not too big of a deal and can be managed if you have a protection bubble, and you can have up to a max of 2 of these. Just like with the vine weapon, if you try to summon more of these than what the cap allows, you just spend the resources to do so and then nothing happens. In the case of this weapon, that can be dangerous as you will spend the life and you just won't get the summon in return. With the Staff of the Wild, it's not that big of a deal because you just end up wasting mana, and it's a lot harder to hit the cap, as where these are very easy to hit the cap because you can only have 2, but summoning 2 of these things in a large group of enemies is absolutely nuts, and they will just devastate everything around them. They are a fantastic siege weapon. Overall, I think this staff and the shotgun staff are going to be your 2 strongest weapons in the Ashlands and will be fantastic additions to your magic arsenal. Now that we've taken a look at the staves, I just want to quickly show you how to get some of the rarer materials. There are fortresses in the Ashlands, and inside those fortresses there are chests. Those chests are what contain these rarer materials. There may be other places you can find them, but this is where I have found them so far. Some of the fortresses will have 2 chests on the outside of the inner column of the fortress, which you can find the items in those, and then inside that column you can also find another chest which can have the items in it as well, except you are going to need a siege engine of some type to get inside that center column and get back out easily. You can get in there easily, but you're not going to be able to get back out easily without some type of siege engine busting down the walls first. All right, and that's pretty much it for this one. That is going to wrap it up for this video. If you found this video helpful and informational, please consider hitting the subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified when I put out other Valheim videos. And if you're looking for some more of my content, you can find a link to another one of my videos on the screen right now. I want to give an absolute massive shout out and thank you to all of my channel supporters for helping to keep these videos sponsor free. You all are absolutely amazing people. If you would like to become an official channel supporter, check out the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought. If you're shy, you don't like to comment, just hit that thumbs up button and share your support. Until next time, thanks for watching.